The readings for Wednesday, May 10th. The epistle reading is from the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 14, verses 6 through 18. They became aware of it and fled to Lystra and Derbe, cities of Lycaonia, and to the surrounding region, and they were preaching the gospel there. And in Lystra, a certain man without strength in his feet was sitting, a cripple from his mother's womb, who had never walked. This man heard Paul speaking. Paul, observing him intently and seeing that he had faith to be healed, said with a loud voice, "Stand up straight on your feet." And he leaped and walked. Now when the people saw what Paul had done, they raised their voices, saying in the Lycaonian language, "The gods have come down to us in the likeness of men." And Barnabas they called Zeus, and Paul Hermes, because he was the chief speaker. Then the priest of Zeus, whose temple was in front of their city, brought oxen and garlands to the gates, intending to sacrifice with the multitudes. But when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard this, they tore their clothes and ran in among the multitude, crying out and saying, "Men, why are you doing these things? We also are men with the same nature as you, and preach to you that you should turn from these useless things to the living God, who made the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all things that are in them, who in bygone generations allowed all nations to walk in their own ways. Nevertheless, he did not leave himself without witness, in that he did good, gave us rain from heaven and fruitful seasons, filling our hearts with food and gladness." And with these sayings they could scarcely restrain the multitudes from sacrificing to them. All right, some footnotes from the Orthodox Study Bible. None for that page. So for verses 11 through 13, this unfitting praise by the people was a, quote, contrivance of the devil, unquote, says St. John Chrysostom, an attempt to lead the people to a new idolatry and to tempt Paul and Barnabas to pride. Yeah, very interesting. I've heard it once said before, I don't know what priest or monk it was, but that the devil doesn't need you to worship him. He just needs you to not worship God in order to meet his goals. And it's true. He'll use any tactic he can. He's very seldom comes in the form of a red guy in horns with a pitchfork. He'll tempt you with pride, anything. Anyways, moving on. For verses 15 through 17, while Paul preached Christ to the Jews using the Old Testament, as noted in chapter 13, verses 17 through 41, here he presents the Lord to these Gentiles from the perspective of creation. See also chapter 17, verses 22 through 26. In this way, he uses a starting point most accessible to his hearers. And for verses 18 and 19, so just one additional verse to what we read here today. The people's immediate change from worshiping these apostles to persecuting them shows a mob mentality, and that a faith based solely on the miraculous, as noted in verses 8 through 11, is fickle, weak, and easily shattered. The Gospel reading is from the book of John, chapter 7, verses 14 through 30. Now, about the middle of the feast, Jesus went up to the temple and taught, and the Jews marveled, saying, "How does this man know letters, having never studied?" Jesus answered them and said, My doctrine is not mine, but his who sent me. If anyone wills to do his will, he shall know concerning the doctrine, whether it is from God or whether I speak on my own authority. He who speaks from himself seeks his own glory, but he who seeks the glory of the one who sent him is true, and no unrighteousness is in him. Did not Moses give you the law, yet none of you keeps the law? Why do you seek to kill me? The people answered and said, You have a demon. Who is seeking to kill you? Jesus answered and said to them, I did one work, and you all marvel. Moses therefore gave you circumcision, not that it is from Moses, but from the fathers. And you circumcise a man on the Sabbath. If a man receives circumcision on the Sabbath, so that the law of Moses should not be broken, are you angry with me because I made a man completely well on the Sabbath? Do not judge according to appearance, but judge with righteous judgment. Now some of them from Jerusalem said, Is this not he whom they seek to kill? But look, he speaks boldly, and they say nothing to him. Do the rulers know indeed that this is truly the Christ? However, we know where this man is from. But when the Christ comes, no one knows where he is from. Then Jesus cried out, as he taught in the temple, saying, You both know me, and you know where I am from, and I have not come of myself, but he who sent me is true, whom you do not know. But I know him, for I am from him, and he sent me. Therefore they sought to take him, but no one laid a hand on him, because his hour had not yet come. All right. Some footnotes from the Orthodox Study Bible. For verse 17, the simple desire to know and follow God's will is the key to understanding it. Spiritual blindness comes from unwillingness to know God or to recognize his authority. St. John Chrysostom paraphrases Christ in this way, quote, Rid yourselves of wickedness, the anger, the envy, and the hatred which have arisen in your hearts without provocation against me. Then you will have no difficulty in realizing that my words are actually those of God. As it is, these passions darken your understanding and distort sound judgment. If you remove these passions, you will no longer be afflicted in this way. Unquote. For verse 23, the term Sabbath, it says to see the footnote at Matthew chapter 12, verses 3 through 5. For verse 27, the phrase, we know where this man is from. The crowds are mistaken, both in an earthly sense and in a divine sense. Humanly speaking, they think of Jesus as being from Nazareth of Galilee. They are not aware that he is actually born in Bethlehem, as noted in verse 42. See Luke chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. Beyond this, they cannot comprehend that he has come from the Father in heaven, eternally begotten before all ages, and thus his divine origin remains unknown to them all as well. And for verse 30, his hour is the time of his suffering and death. Christ is the Lord over time, an authority possessed by God alone. He comes to his cross of his own free will and in his time, and not according to the plots of men. See chapter 8, verse 20, and chapter 10, verse 39. All right, everybody, that is a wrap on this beautiful sunny hump day. Sunny where I am, anyways. You all know the spiel here. Hope you guys have a blessed day. Today is mid-Pentecost, by the way. The halfway point between Pascha, or the resurrection, and the Feast of Pentecost, I believe, or else just Ascension. No, it would be Pentecost. That's the name. Yeah, so there's a good chance a local parish near you is having liturgy or some type of service today, morning or probably evening. You should go. But if you cannot make it, please just say a prayer for me, a sinner, and it would be very appreciated. Thank you.